I'd say that a dream job honestly doesn't exist. The thing is that like what works for you, rather what works for someone else might not work for you. I think understanding your core personality is really the first step. A lot of people get into jobs that they don't enjoy just because they don't know what their strengths are. People, tend to kind of look around and see what other people are doing, and then they feel maybe a little bit pressured to kind of get into that space. The other thing also is that if you don't know what you want, then you should just first identify what you don't want.
What's up guys, welcome to another video. Today in this video I interview the legendary May Ping. Now here's some things you need to know about May. First, she's climbed the corporate ladder to help and assist with multi-million-dollar projects, advising C-suite level executives at big companies. We're talking like Visa and EY and these big companies. In just her 20s, she was able to do that. She's now a career coach and her clients are all C-suite type of executive people, like really big people, and she helps them find clarity and helps them grow in their role. She's really popular on LinkedIn. In fact, I was pretty nervous reaching out to her. I was like, oh my god, would you want to talk to me and everything? But luckily she said yes. I was like, oh wow, oh my god. And fun fact, she's traveled to over 37 countries. Man, I think I traveled to like 3 or 4, but can you imagine 37? Anyways, that is the intro for May Ping. I hope you enjoy this interview. We talk about a lot of great things, and feel free to sit back, relax, and bring some popcorn out, I guess, if you have popcorn, if you watch YouTube videos with popcorn. Nonetheless, I will see you in the video. Enjoy. Perfect. Well, thanks again for doing this. I really appreciate this. But just to jump right in, I guess. And the first question for you is, I do some career coaching as well, and I have a lot of people reaching out to me, and they're generally like, Alif, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I feel overwhelmed, and I don't know what my dream job is, whether they're coming out of university or they're in a job that they hate right now. And speaking to that individual, if you were in their position, what advice would you have for them to help them find that so-called dream job and figure life out?
Well, I've spent many years in the corporate world, right? So I've worked with many people, junior all the way to very senior folks. And I'd say that a dream job honestly doesn't exist. So I like that. That's the first reality.
Oh, no.
Like it just doesn't exist. But the thing is that like what works for you, or what works for someone else might not work for you. And I also speak to a lot of clients on career direction, career clarity, all these things. I think understanding your core personality is really the first step, because a lot of people get into jobs that they don't enjoy just because they don't know what their strengths are. So they end up getting caught in an area that they may not be very good at, or it takes quite a bit for them to get to like the baseline level of like what good looks like in the job. So I think people, tend to kind of look around and see what other people are doing, and then they feel maybe a little bit pressured to kind of get into that space. So I think first step, definitely, you can take a personality test, or just, spend a little bit of time, in retrospection, right? Learn a bit more about yourself and kind of what works for you. And get rid of this dream job. So the other thing also is that if you don't know what you want, then you should just first identify what you don't want, because it's a lot easier to identify what you don't want. That will eventually get you closer to what you want. Like that's like the flip side. Yeah.
So work backwards in a way, figure out what you don't want. And
that's what I have done personally in my career also. Like when I started in audit, so there were a lot of numbers. Yes, even though I'm a trained accountant, but numbers is just not my thing. So and then each role, I kind of moved away from the numbers bit. So I gradually kind of moved more into like the governance space, compliance, and ultimately to strategy, which is I think kind of fits my personality and what I'm good at also. So same approach, but apply individually, like to us personally, like each and every person.
I see. And so let's say this individual is like in the room, they're reflecting and they figure out, I don't like this. Will they reach a point where they're like, this is the job ideally around that suits my personality? Is there a point where they'll reach that after a number of reflection, or is it just clarity? You know what I'm talking about?
I think it would also depend, right? So if you're kind of early on in your career, so I would say that, if you have worked for less than maybe 5 to 6 years, like anything less than that, if you don't try enough, then you would never truly know what works. Because a lot of stuff, like when you think about it, it makes sense on paper, like logically makes sense. But kind of once you get into it, it'd be like, oh, I didn't know they were so strict. Oh, I didn't know the day-to-day job is so boring. I thought I was gonna do this and this. I'm like, yeah, but like that's the overall goal. But like on a day-to-day basis, there are like a lot of things that you need to figure out also. So I think if you're younger in your career, so I'd say like someone who have currently just starting in their career, or 5 to 6 years or less, just kind of give it a try, but really think about whether it works for you or not. Like constantly assess. So the best time is like the annual review process, right? So just like the companies have the annual performance review, you should also do one for yourself that's like not initiated by your boss, like one independent one for your career, and think about like, is this really what you want to do in the next 12 months? And are you really going to learn something or grow in the role? I think that's, everybody's responsibility to take charge of their own career and not wait for someone else to tell them or kind of guide them in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so I like that idea. Have like a formal annual review, but by yourself. Like, hey, do I like this job? And is this a good fit for me? Right?
Yeah. Because like for some of my clients, I do teach them like how they can identify if they're kind of growing in their career or not, and how to pick a job, because it's really just beyond salary. But at the end of the day, everybody have obviously different priorities in life, and what's important and whatnot. But I think the annual self-review, kind of self-career review part of it is really important.
Yeah. And how do you identify if you're actually growing in a job? I know a lot of people, when I speak to them, they're kind of settled in their job and kind of like do the minimum, I guess you can say. And what key things should you look out for in your career to make sure you're consistently developing? Do you have any tips around that?
Well, I think it's really down to each individual's ambition. So if someone feels satisfied that this is kind of where they're at, then no problems, right? I think, we all kind of reach a sweet spot and like, okay, that's it, right? I'm not gonna strive for more, and that's completely fine. But I guess the bigger thing is, in 5 years time, like you're comfortable now, but like in 5 years time, if you're just gonna do this, like, are you okay with that? If you're okay with that, then like, okay, great. Just move on, because I think we just need to respect everybody's choice, and they may have other priorities outside of their career, and I think that's completely fine.
So basically assess where you are compared to like maybe your ambitions and where you want to be, and that's the gap you need to fill. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, if you feel comfortable where you are now, then if in 5 years time, 10 years time, you're quite comfortable with whatever role that you're in, great. But don't forget that digitization, globalization is all around us. So you may be comfortable, but the environment may not be very comfortable for you down the road. So there's just some stuff to think about.
Yeah, automation, everything coming in the world, and who knows what the world will look like.
Exactly.
2020 might happen again. Who knows?
Yes, exactly.
And so speaking on that topic, so let's say there's a young professional that enters their first 9 to 5 corporate job, and they're in an entry level role, and their ambition is to grow within the company and eventually be able to, be part of the executive team and climb the corporate ladder. What habits do you think they need to instill from day one to ensure that they attain that success, like that end goal?
I won't say particularly habits, but based on the time that I've spent in corporate, and personally, I've moved up quite quickly. A lot of people were very surprised that I handled very big portfolios, even though I was only in my 20s. I was basically working with people in their 40s and 50s most of the time.
And you're just 20-year-olds telling them things, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was uncomfortable, not just for me, but like for other people also.
Really?
Yeah, because young Asian female, like not the best combination in corporate.
And they were missing older males, is that right?
Yeah, older people in general, and obviously I live in Asia, so like that's it is what it is. But I've identified 12 skills that I think are really, really important to develop. So I guess if you're a young professional, regardless of what you're doing, make sure that you are focused on sharpening. I just pick a couple of skills that you might be lacking based on your personality. For example, back to the extrovert introvert example. If you're an extrovert, naturally you're not very good at listening, because you're busy talking.
Yeah.
So like that's a lot of challenge. Quite a number of extroverts do face that challenge. And if you're an introvert, likely speaking up might be a problem because you just want to hide and you're like, people are going to identify that I'm working hard anyway, so it doesn't matter. But it does matter. Yeah, so the top 12 skills I'll give you a quick snippet. So clearly communication, right? Speaking up. Second would be listening skills, right? So sharpening that. Emotional intelligence for sure. Making sure that you can really identify how people are kind of interacting with you. Aside from that, leadership is self-management because you need to learn how to manage yourself. So don't make promises that you cannot deliver. And also like managing your boss's expectation, like stakeholder expectation is really critical. Aside from that, I think creating win-win relationships is a really big problem. So I do see a lot of younger professionals, they're so focused on their job, like whatever that they're supposed to do. They don't remember that a lot of things are, you have to work in a team. You can't just go around saying that, hey, you need to do this for me, I need this, I, me. And after a while, you know, the other stakeholders might be like, why should I help you? Because like you're only coming to me when you want something, but where is that win-win relationship? Where is that level of support for each other? So like I would say that those top 6 are really critical. Aside from that, obviously, you know, being adaptable, creativity, time management, you know, critical thinking, decision making, all those are also really critical. Yeah, but I think in corporate, you need to first learn how to communicate, how to strong listening skills, because as a junior staff, you need to listen a lot. And if you don't listen clearly and you don't really understand what your stakeholders want or what your bosses want, you're just going to screw up down the way. Right? It's going to affect how you manage expectations with your boss. It's going to affect your relationship with stakeholders. And if you can't even manage at that junior level, it's very difficult to move up. Like
yeah,
people
I can imagine.
want to work with you, then that's when they say, oh, okay, you know, Alif, I think you're really great. And why not take this project? Why not take that project? And we only offer that to people that we think that are clearly competent and, more importantly, able to collaborate with other people, because obviously this is a really, really important factor. So learning how to collaborate with people, it's not just a me mentality. It's a we mentality. It's sometimes difficult to drill in because a lot of fresh grads, they are kind of straight fresh out of university. So in university, it's very much like, okay, I have my own projects, right? I have my own papers, I have my own reports, and then you go into the corporate, but oh, I have to deal with all these 20 people. Like, where do I start?
That's such a good point. Yeah, and I feel like I fall victim to that a lot. Like I feel, it's not even like an ego. It's like in university, I'm told everything's about me. My remarks matter. You can do it. Go get it.
Yes.
Special. And then I go in the workplace and like I realize no one really cares about me. I just need to perform, hit the results, and attain it, or else I'll lose the job. And it's a whole different mindset shift.
Yeah.
Can you maybe talk about, so what is self-management and what does that mean, and how can someone develop these self-management skills that you're mentioning?
So self-management basically in my view is do what you say. Right? So do what you say. So I find that in this current I guess rather modern workspace or whatever, where everyone is very into social media and everything, people take for granted that things can be done very quickly. And I think sometimes like promises or commitments are taken quite lightly as well. So when I was particularly working, the stuff that really annoys me are the people who tell me that they're going to get back to me or they're going to commit to a deadline, but they don't come back. So to me, you know, it kind of ruins reputation in that sense, right? I think reputation, commitment, dedication, all these are clearly critical attitude pieces that needs to be ironed out. Because I used to hire, like I said, junior all the way to senior. So I hired as associates all the way to director level. And I think at the baseline, we're all looking for someone with like good attitude. So, and also reliability, right? So if you're not reliable, how can I trust you to run my portfolio or deliver a certain piece of project? So I think self-management is important, because if you can't even fulfill the commitment that you have made or like a certain timeline or deliverable, how can I trust you to deal with 5 people, 10 people or more people, right? So it's just something so simple, but I feel like it's kind of forgotten in this very fast-paced, noisy world right now. But I think that it's a really, really important thing. So I know right now, you know, personal branding is like a really big thing, but when I work with my clients, I always tell them, good, but you want to make sure that whatever branding that you have, like it's a positive one. It's a positive reputation, not the other way around, because you can be, you know, perceived as many things. But I think in the workplace, especially if you are a young professional who is very interested to kind of move up, I think that is the expectation. Understanding expectation at the top level kind of helps you better prepare to what does it actually take to, you know, get that promotion and get that career growth. Because you can behave like what you want to do. You can listen to whatever advice, but but if you want to get there, then shouldn't you learn from these people who are already there?
Oh, that's deep. I love that. Yeah, that's so deep. You know, based on your podcast and the content you have out there, I noticed one of the biggest things you talk about is communication in the workplace. And it seems like this is one of the skills they kind of talk about. Can you maybe talk about, and I'm curious myself, but what is the difference between communication when you're chilling with friends compared to in the workplace, in the corporate business environment, and how can someone develop these workplace communication skills?
Yeah. So when you're chatting with your friends, a lot of it, it's I guess it's just chit chat, right? So whatever kind of is on your mind, you feel free to express yourself. And I think it's a good thing, right? It's a good thing to express yourself and feel like you're not holding anything back, right? Creating that rapport, that friendship. But I think in the workplace, communication is very targeted. And that's something that people tend to forget. And when I was running very big portfolios every day, like if you say in an 8-hour work day, I spend 4 to 5 hours in meetings every single day, 4 to 5 hours. So the worst thing what I really hate was what I consider people wasting my time. And that's like a really big thing. Like people don't recognize that time is such an important thing. And imagine 4 hours out of 8 hours every single day in a meeting, and my day is not even 8 hours. Like I work much longer hours because I was running a very big regulatory portfolio. Then I was like, what I don't want is like, don't waste my time, right? That's like the biggest thing. I guess people tend to forget that. So communication in the workplace ultimately comes down to priorities and deliverables, right? So when you're communicating, you're supposed to, your focus is to get an action, right? How are you driving an action or a next step or moving towards a clearer goal or deliverable in whatever that you're telling me? Like, don't call me and nag for like half an hour. I'm like, okay, what's the point? Like, what do you want me to do? And which project is this related to? Or it's just like, you just want to get stuff off your mind, right? So that it's quite different. So always remember that if you are communicating in the workplace, what exactly are you driving towards? Or if it's just chit chat, then, you know, lunchtime, tea break, donut break, whatever that is. But I think there's like a proper time and place. And given that you're, you know, I guess a lot of your audience are also young professionals as well. So don't forget that your bosses don't really have that much time. So don't waste anybody's time. Get to the point. Obviously, you know, you can always give more context as necessary, right? If that's something important. But I think be direct and be precise. And I think that is something that's really appreciated, because I do work with a lot of managing directors as well. So obviously these people, I think my ex-boss ran a $4 billion portfolio. The last thing she wants is someone who's going to waste her time. And it just kind of trickles down, isn't it? Yeah. So if you don't value your time, then how can you expect other people to value your time?
Ooh, another, you're just dropping deep quotes right now.
I don't know. I think time management is such an important thing. I think respecting boundaries and other people's time it's really a critical thing, because I spent many years running very tight portfolios. A lot of it are actually confidential projects. But I think time is really of the essence. And the higher you move up the ladder, especially those, you know, who may be very ambitious, you want to be CEOs one day, or maybe even transition to your own business, that is something so critical. Because I've seen a lot of people make that move, but a lot of it, a lot of challenges they face may eventually come down to like priority management, or, you know, just time management in general. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. How did you, I'm curious, how did you grow so fast within just your 20s? And how can like I replicate that myself, or even like my audience listening to this right now? Like, do you mind sharing that? Because that's so fascinating.
I think I have a very strong awareness of myself. Like, I think, you know, like I said, right, it's really down to like self-awareness and personality. I think I'm quite clear on like, you know, how I am as a person, like what I like, what I don't like, what I think I'm good at, and what I recognize that I don't know or don't like. So I think that's been something that's quite strong. And I have also been very proactive in kind of moving my career in the direction of the stuff that I want or I'm better at. So I'll give you an example. So I'm a trained accountant. So as you know, like working in the Big Four is like everybody's dream, right?
Yeah.
The EYs, PwCs, whatever. So actually I started I'll just give you a quick summary. I started in a very small firm because it was the financial crisis in 08, 09. So I actually didn't have the chance to join a Big Four. But after, I was there for the small firm for a year, and I told myself, okay, I need to move to a Big Four so that I can have more exposure. So I proactively applied and proactively tried to apply for like different locations and different Big Fours and so forth, and make sure that I actually make that move.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's like having that mindset of like, okay, this is not good enough for now. Like it's an amazing 1 year, but like again, like I said, what's the next 12 months going to bring me? If I'm just going to do the same thing, then what's the point? And when I moved to the Big Four, I did a lot of numbers related stuff, a lot of much smaller financial services companies. And I said, okay, no, given that I'm in Singapore, I should be doing banking. So I want to work on like bank clients. I wanted to do compliance reviews because a lot of it is more qualitative. So I was much better at like identifying gaps rather than the number stuff. So I proactively requested for projects that allowed me to do more of like the compliance reviews. So, and because that was the stuff that I was good at. So I constantly got feedback from my managers, and they're like, okay, we like this, we like that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just gradually moved there. And when I was ready to leave Ernst & Young, and that time actually I was on LinkedIn, so I saw a job opening, a job posting by Visa. It was a regional auditor role that allowed me to travel all over Asia as well as San Francisco. I was like, this is amazing, because I personally love travel. I'm like, oh, right.
Yeah.
So I just went for it because also from a career alignment perspective, it was internal audit, right? Process. It was no numbers, like very minimal. So I was like, okay, I'm like, okay, maybe this is the one. So I pretty much went for it because I think it ticked more boxes than the X's, right? There were more ticks than the yes than the no's. So I just went for it, and after about 2 years, I was again on LinkedIn. So I got a message from a global HR from Standard Chartered. She said, hey, I kind of came across your profile. We're creating a completely new team. It's going to be a pioneer team. As you know, Standard Chartered has paid $1 billion in fines. So, you're going to need to redesign the framework. And we really like that you have regulatory experience, and you have also traveled to all these countries and stuff like that. Would you like to come for an interview? I got the job in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So everything just happened really, really quickly. But I think it moved me towards like what I wanted to do a little bit more. And gradually, I just obviously have to work really hard. So a lot of people think that, oh yeah, as long as I have personal branding, I don't really have to do any work. Like that is not true. I think you need to actively work on like your weaknesses to get it to like a baseline. So the 12 skills that I mentioned, I think were the really main things that I had to level up in order to kind of move so that I could even deliver my work, because I was working with a lot of very senior people, and I was never in banking before. So I joined in as a senior associate. Within 3 months, I got promoted to a manager, and within 3 months, they gave me some strategic project. I'm like, what am I going to do with all these things? And I told my boss, I'm like, I'm new in banking, right? Then he was like, yes, but you're really good in audit, and these are all these things I need you to move. So I was like, oh. So it was a massively crazy time. Like I think 24 hours was completely not enough. But I think I just got by because there was some stuff that made me really good at my job in the first place, like how I managed to join the bank in the first place. But there were just a lot of stuff that I had to like overcome as well. Like the first time they told me that, oh, you have to travel to so many countries and do this training. I'm like, I'm not delivering this training. I'm not a trainer. I'm like, no, not doing it. And they were like, okay, we're not going to hire, because I think there were some regulatory projects at that time. So they really wanted people in the field, like the experts, to deliver the training instead of like, I guess, just general trainers. And they're like, no, you're going. I'm like, okay, where are we going? Oh, New York, London, Hong Kong, Dubai, Singapore, and India. I'm like, no, not going.
Wait, no India? No to India, or just no to like everything?
Like, no to the whole, I'm like, I'm not presenting. I'm like, I can barely speak because, I'm like, God, man, I'm clearly an introvert. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the train. I'll review all the slides or whatever. And they're like, no, you need to go. So it was really, it was like a crash course in public speaking training.
Yeah, imagine, wow. Your growth must be like.
Yeah, I think that was really one of those most memorable things that I did as Standard Chartered from a regulatory project standpoint. So I remember the first training we did in New York. Obviously, there were a lot of very senior people there. I spoke for only 10 minutes. I was like, no, this is crazy. And by the end of it, in end of March, when we concluded it, the last session was in London. I did it 2 days. I ran the 2-day training myself with some of the most senior managing directors in the room. So I was like, it was crazy. And it was like, shoot questions, right? Because everybody wanted to, oh, what's the direction of this portfolio? What are you guys going to do? We're unhappy, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so it was just constant learning. It just depends on what you want. Yeah, it depends on what you want. So I said, okay, I mean, it's really painful, but I told myself, like, if I don't do this, I'll probably get fired. So I was like, after 6 months, am I ready to leave the bank? I'm like, maybe not.
You have to. How did you deal with stress? Like, that's all. I'm stressed hearing that story. I'm like, oh my God. How, like, do you deal with it yourself? Like, and do you have any advice for people like listening right now who are in workplaces that are very stressful and going through a similar period? Like, yeah, like, wow. Like,
I think sometimes like crazy periods happen. So when you're in a crazy time, a lot of it is you just run on adrenaline, I think. Right, which is not a good thing, like not for the long term, but I think there will be definitely periods of time where there will be no work-life balance depending on what you're looking for, right? So there will be those crazy times, but I have personally found like just listening to relaxing music for like 30 minutes before I sleep help a lot. And just having like a simple plan of like, okay, these are the stuff I'm going to deal with tomorrow. There's even just some simple bullets help me feel like, okay, I didn't leave the day like with fully unfinished work with no plan. Like I do have a plan, but I'm just going to deal with it tomorrow. Yeah, so I think those two things help. But it was definitely a crazy time, a crazy time.
Yes.
And every single one of my colleagues like who worked with me on the project also said that it was the craziest time. So I felt that the few years I worked on the portfolio almost felt like 10, 20 years. So eventually I could work with people a lot older than me, because I think from a strategic standpoint or from like a perspective standpoint, we were pretty much on the equal level. So
wow.
So I think, I work with a lot of young professionals as well, and I think especially the high performing ones, I think imposter syndrome comes in a lot because people think I look young. I was like, look at me, I look like I just graduated, which is not helpful. But I think I always tell them, confidence comes from competence. If you don't fix your real skills, like you don't put in the effort, you don't keep practicing, then whatever confident pose that you're trying to convey, like it will fall flat. Because when you go into meetings, when you have conversations, like real conversations that you can't just like BS, it's just all gonna fall apart. So like, why not take that time and actually go and fix the stuff that you're not so good at, right? Whether it's technical knowledge or industry knowledge, or even like yourself, like the way you express yourself, the way you kind of think about the project or your career strategically, or whatever that is, right? So work on your job skills, because it's a lot more fun to be present online, because there's a lot of visibility, there's a lot of activity. But I do believe that at the end of the day, it's 10-20%, and like your real presence at work and really focusing on that, it's probably like the 80-90%. And I truly believe in that, because I have a lot of clients who are really top performers in their company, and they are not really online, to be honest. They are not really online. I mean, obviously they have a very good LinkedIn profile. I think that's the ultimate baseline that you must have. But in terms of like online presence, they are not that active actually.
And that's perfectly lead to the next question. So someone's working 9 to 5. They're working hard and everything, but they're not on the online stuff because they're just too busy and overwhelmed, and they're tired after work to even do anything, right? Yeah. What can someone do outside of work to ensure they have long-term career success, like maybe personal branding or whatever that is? How do you?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to recognize that we are in a digital world, right? So you can't say that you truly exist unless you have an online profile. I think that's what I truly believe in. So I think my advice for those sort of people is like, don't forget like how the world is going to look like in the next 10-20 years. So really take that 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever time that you have, and just create a LinkedIn profile. Make sure that it is it is complete, right? Really demonstrates your background, skills, and experiences. And obviously, connect with the right people, whether it's your peers or like HR or thought leaders and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, if you're busy, then determine when you wanna get on the platform, be it once a week, right? Once in a fortnight or whatever. But just having that the bit of consistency helps. And in the past, when I was working in a corporate role, I was not on LinkedIn a lot, but every single month I get many recruiters dropping me messages because my profile is very strong. So you can still get that kind of visibility for career success, but it really depends on like what is that growth or success that you're looking at. Right? So, but definitely have that profile done properly as the baseline, I think. Yeah.
I see. And so, I'm noticing a lot of like you mentioning being consistent on online and LinkedIn and whatnot. What do you mean by being consistent? So for example, I get a lot of people reach out to me, they're like, how do I make a LinkedIn post? I'm scared to make a post. I don't even know what to post on LinkedIn. What is content creation? Like they just don't know how the process sort of works. So for those people who are looking to create content on social media, like you're mentioning, how can they get started? What's the simple thing they can do?
To be honest, I normally don't advise my clients to create content online unless they are really doing well at work, because it can be a distraction. Because if you're trying to create content online for visibility because you feel like you can't handle your real job at the workplace, I think that's a much bigger problem to deal with. But if you have everything sorted, then you just want to get started. I wouldn't bother so much about like creating posts. I think just engage on other people's posts. It's like the easiest thing, and just drop your thoughts, drop your views. And because we all have views on like a lot of things, right? So I think that is a much easier way to get started than, stressing yourself out writing posts. It's quite funny because I see a lot of young people, they really are into the whole content creation thing. And sometimes I wonder the amount of time they use to create this online content, like why not sharpen your workplace skills? Because that actually, reduces your pain and helps you move, create more value at your job, like your real job that pays you money. So I mean, obviously, unless you have a different goal of like transitioning to business or a freelancer or an entrepreneur at some point, then obviously, that's a different approach. But I think for 99% of people, it's really doing well at work so that, there's more satisfaction and fulfillment from that.
Wow. So basically don't get too carried away with content creations, personal branding stuff. If that means your work is going to be declining, right? Make work number one priority.
Yeah. Like I said, right, a lot of my clients are top performers and they're barely even on LinkedIn, and they get constant offers to move because they're really good at their work. Yeah.
Wow.
So it depends on like which side are you on, but never forget that you're there to add value at work.
Yeah, exactly. That's the main goal. I gotta get paid and everything. Wow. Like, and it's one last question before we end. So you were explaining this, and I was listening to it, I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. And I was actually blown away. How does an introvert stand out in a meeting room that's filled with like 20 different extroverts? Let's say they're executives and they're high and all this stuff, right? What can an introvert do to prepare and stand out in that meeting?
I'm just going to give a very quick one here. Number one, I think you first need to identify the dynamics of a room. Doesn't mean that in every meeting you need to speak out. Like if you're the most junior person there and the meeting has like a lot of senior people, like managing directors and whatnot, I think you can learn a lot from listening. And that's how, to me, introverts can really thrive, because most introverts are very good listeners, like, in retrospection, and really able to process stuff. So I think that's how they can use their strength. So I think for introverts, doesn't mean that you need to speak out so that, you can add value. Sometimes listening skills like come to play also. But if you're talking about a general team meeting where you're expected to contribute, you can always get started with just one comment or one question, just one. Because sometimes, like when we think of, what do I have to say? What do I have to say? It almost feels like you need to ask constant questions to get attention, but not necessarily so. So maybe give yourself a very simple, like kind of bit of a personal challenge, and just say, okay, if there's just one thing that I'll say to add value or to share my thoughts, like what is that one thing? Or if there's only one question that I'll ask, what is that one thing? Because a lot of it is just getting out of your own comfort zone. It's more important than what question you ask or what you say. It's opening your mouth and actually say something is actually the biggest mental block for most introverts. Getting out of their own head is the thing.
Okay. See, like as an extrovert myself, like especially when I spoke to Godwin about this, I'm like, is that how you really process things? And I think you made a post about like introverts in the workplace or something. I was like, interesting. And you're right. Like as an extrovert, like sometimes I have just so much energy, I just want to talk. But I think understand to like just hold myself back and whatnot, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, that concludes the interview. Thanks so much, May. I really appreciate this. How can people follow you? Any services you provide? Where can they reach out?
Yeah, so I am most active on LinkedIn. So if you're not connected yet, listening to this, connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Mei Ping. A lot of people say I don't look like my profile photo, but connect with me. So nowadays, I mainly work with corporate professionals. Two things. So number one is career clarity and direction. So as we said earlier, right, how to grow your career, and more importantly, how not to get stuck, which is what most people are interested in. I also do a little bit of LinkedIn profile audits and helping people kind of optimize their profile for visibility. But a huge part of what I do is actually to helping those ambitious people to consistently improve their skills so that they can move up in their career. Other than that, it's also helping those who are finding it challenging at their current job. So not saying that they want to move, but okay, how do they get better and actually thrive in their role? So that's really kind of moving out around a lot of mindset, a lot of the skills that we talked about, communication, how to work with stakeholders, which is a big problem for a lot of people, how to get out of their own head and really learn how to like build rapport, time management, productivity issues. Like a lot of that, I find that most people don't reach out because they don't realize that there is help available. So yeah, I mean, if you're a corporate professional, you're struggling, to be honest, you don't really have to struggle. It's not always the fact that you need a new job. Sometimes it's just about like, which skills do you need to sharpen to make this job less painful for you and make sure that you meet their baseline and able to thrive. So that's I would say that the big part that I do.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, you can do it. Wow, I'm so inspired right now. I feel like you have all these like hidden gems in you. Yeah, guys, feel free to reach out to her. Like, I love this interview. Thanks so much for being on the show. Honestly, I learned a lot myself. So thanks for enlightening us.
Yeah, welcome. I think that's just I feel like more people should take charge of their career and not wait for someone else to give them the guidance, or maybe not this way, but don't always expect your boss or your manager to plan out your career for you, because they may have different priorities from you and they actually need to start thinking about their own situation also. So yeah, be your own hero, isn't it?
Be your own hero.
Yeah.
Wow, that should
Need
be on a
help, then reach
shirt.
out.
Yeah, be your own hero. Wow, that spoke to me a lot. Amazing. Wow. I feel like I'm still processing. I'm like, wow, this is like stuff. But again, thank you, May, for being on the show. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll talk soon.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks.